The fifth word from John chapter 19, verse 28. Jesus knew that his mission was now finished. And to fulfill the scriptures, he said, I am thirsty. I thirst. I would invite you just for a moment to think about a time when you experienced that experience. When you were thirsty. Has there been a time? I'm sure that we can all relate, those of us who are parents, to a typical childhood experience of a child that you've sent to bed, and as you're trying to calm things down, you hear the little voice from the bedroom, Mommy, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. Well, maybe just for attention or whatever, not really thirst, but those words of a child, I'm thirsty. Drawing out that emotion from a parent. I remember a time as a young teenager, growing up in southwestern Oklahoma, in the northwestern part of Oklahoma, out there on the high plains, in the panhandle, that various expanse of nothingness. And there were ranchers there. Most of them lost money, unless they had oil. But there was one rancher, Mr. Barbie, and he was bound and determined to do things the old-fashioned way. Now I'm talking about the way that you rounded up cattle, the way you ran cattle on the range, the way that you got on your horse and went out and you got the cattle once a year for the roundup, the way that you brought the cattle in, you took the cattle down, you branded the cattle, you took care of all of the vaccinations, you roughed house the cattle. The old-fashioned way. Well, my father was convinced that his sons needed to know what that old-fashioned way was like, because that's the way he had grown up. And so he took my brother and I, and we went to the Barbie Ranch for an old-fashioned roundup. Well, that day, we worked hard. It was out there in that semi-arid desert, riding horses, wrestling the cattle. And at the conclusion of the day, went to the bunkhouse. Now the bunkhouse was a shed. There was no bathroom there. There was certainly no running water. And we were exhausted. And we crawled into the bunk. When I woke up in the middle of the night, my tongue was cleaving to the roof of my mouth. My mouth was so dry, like a potsherd, like a dry piece of pottery. I was so thirsty. But there was no water. There was no place to go. There was nothing to do but wait through the agony of the night until morning light, when I was told, well, go out to the windmill. And the windmill bringing up that fresh water from the depth of the earth. And my thirst was quenched. Jesus on the cross, this word, sometimes described as the most human of the words, that human experience that we all know, thirst. Thirst. Our human body, the healthy human body, is about 60% water. Without water, the human body might be able to survive, 3 days, max 5, without water. There's currently a reality TV show on the Discovery Channel called Naked and Afraid. People are put into treacherous places around the earth. And they are totally exposed to all of the dangers of the place, to scorpions, to beasts, to snakes. But in all of that, there's almost nothing as perilous as not having potable water, as thirst. Thirst will drive them insane. Sometimes the water is there, but not potable. Saline, salt water. Or filled with amoebas, knowing if they drink the water, the chance of illness is great. That water. What happens when our bodies react to that water? Well, this very weekend, I made hospital visits. One to a woman who was retaining water. She had too much water, some 40 pounds of water, and they had hospitalized her to bring the water level down. In the same hospital at the same time, another woman there because she was completely dehydrated. Her body had no water. Blood pressure unstable. Confused. Body shutting down. What does our body do without water? Jesus knew about water. Jesus knew about water from the water of his birth to the water of his baptism, to the ceremonial and ritual waters that were so much a part of the Hebrews' lives, of the cleansing, the ritual cleanings. Jesus knew about water, the miracles of water. His first miracle, transforming water to wine. The miracle, walking on water. Jesus also knew thirst. He had experienced thirst in following his baptism in that 40-day period when he was out in the wilderness. He experienced that thirst during that time. He experienced thirst on one of those long walks from Judea up to Galilee. And it was there in Samaria that he stopped by Jacob's well. Thirsty. Resting there at the well. Thirsty. And he did the unthinkable. He asked a Samaritan woman to provide him with water. He knew about water. He knew about the thirst. In his teaching, he said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst." Blessed are those who thirst after righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. In his teaching, he imagined what it would be without water. He imagined the rich man in Hades looking up towards Father Abraham and pleading, just a drop, just a drop of water to cool my hell-fire tongue. He knew about water. He called himself the living water. And the images of the Scripture are that the water that came forth from the wilderness, from the rock in the wilderness, was in fact, that water was Christ. In the flowing waters of Caesarea Philippi, he elicited that response from his disciples that he was the unique child of God. He knew the still waters of the psalmist. He knew about finding rest and peace in prayer and meditation in the wilderness. And Jesus referenced the words of the psalmist. From Psalm 22, which has already been read, but one portion of that psalm, "My strength has dried up like sun-baked clay. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You have laid me in the dust and left me for dead." But he also knows the Psalms, Psalm 42, verse 1 and 2. As the deer longs for streams of water, so I long for you, O God. I thirst for God, for the living God. Jesus on the cross, crying out, "I thirst." Oh yes, quite human, but quite divine. For he was longing to be one with the Father and the Spirit. United there on that cross, my soul thirsts for God, even as the deer thirsts for water. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee.